Sponsored by rxcardclub.com. Get a free prescription drug card and save up to 85% on prescription drugs. rxcardclub.com, sending an autistic child to public school. Public schools are required to provide free education to all American children, and most autistic children do attend public school. A public school can provide appropriate educational and social settings for a child diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, ASD/R/N/R/N. However, in many cases, local public schools will struggle to find an appropriate setting and provide a meaningful educational program. Is public school likely to be a good match for the child? It all depends on the child, the school district, personal expectations, and a family's budget. /R/N/R/N. This article explores the pros and cons of the public school setting for autistic kids, with information to help you make decisions about the teaching styles that best suit your child's needs. /R/N/R/N. Depending on a child's needs and abilities, they will probably wind up in one or another of these settings. /R/N/R/N. Most autistic children will receive some kind of therapy, usually speech, occupational, and/or physical therapy, in addition to their academic programs. /R/N/R/N. If a child is academically capable, they will be taught the same curriculum as their neurotypical peers. If the child has moderate intellectual, learning, or attention challenges, they may be taught in special education classes or in a resource room. /R/N/R/N. If there are more intense symptoms that require high support needs, the program may consist almost entirely of behavioral, rather than academic, education. /R/N/R/N. There are great advantages to public school for an autistic child. Because of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, there's much more to a free public education than academics alone. Private schools do not have to follow the IDEA. Therefore, students with special needs are not insured accommodations in private schools. /R/N/R/N. According to the IDEA, an autistic child must receive a free and appropriate public education, FAPE, in the least restrictive environment, LRE. That means that an autistic child must receive the right supports to be at least moderately successful in a neurotypical educational setting, whenever possible. /R/N/R/N. Each autistic child in public school must have an Individualized Educational Plan, IEP. In it, a guardian and the child's district-level team will lay out a plan and benchmarks based on the child's goals and needs. If a child isn't progressing as expected, their guardians or team members can call a meeting to decide what to do next. /R/N/R/N. If a child does thrive in a general education setting, public school is a great way to connect more fully with new friends, other parents or guardians, and the school community as a whole. /R/N/R/N. Private schools do not have to conform to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. If your child is in a private school, they may not be given necessary accommodations. /R/N/R/N. The principle of the public school model may sound ideal for some parents or guardians. Yet parents or guardians will often hear school administrators citing budgetary and administrative constraints that limit the ability to enact certain plans or achieve certain goals. /R/N/R/N. In practice, this means that an autistic child is most likely to get an adequate education based on someone else's definition of moderately successful. There are different ways this can play out. /R/N/R/N. In some cases, what looks at first like an adequate educational program really isn't. A child with high support needs, and significant sensory and behavioral issues, may never thrive in a mainstream setting. A child with lower support needs, high-functioning autism, is not going to flourish in a classroom filled with autistic kids facing far greater challenges. /R/N/R/N. In those fairly extreme cases, it's often possible to negotiate a change on your own or through an advocate or mediator. Frequently, school districts will see the problem and make changes based on a child's individual needs. /r/n/r/n You may not like the autism support program offered by your district. Some districts have set up an ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, program for their autistic students at great expense, only to find themselves challenged by parents and neurodivergent advocates uncomfortable with ABA. /r/n/r/n Or, some districts have created autism classrooms complete with sensory integration facilities. Yet many parents and guardians object because they would prefer to have their child mainstreamed into a neurotypical classroom. /r/n/r/n Many autism experts and advocates consider applied behavioral analysis, ABA, to be the gold standard of autism treatment. It's based on rewards and consequences used to foster behavior modification, but its use can be controversial. Some autistic people, and their supporters, criticize ABA for treating all autism traits as problems to fix rather than respecting neurodivergence. They may argue that ABA practices are abusive and can traumatize autistic kids. /r/n/r/n Autistic children are often targets for bullying. They may behave, move, and sound different from their peers and often lack the verbal and social skills to stand up for themselves. This is surprisingly more prevalent for children with lower support needs, as they are more likely to be included in neurotypical classes. /r/n/r/n This means they're likely to be more sensitive to bullying behaviors and have more exposure to them, especially for young kids. It's also possible for autistic kids to be the bully, as well as victims of bullying, more often than their neurotypical counterparts. /r/n/r/n Autistic children may find the sensory challenges of typical school to be overwhelming and upsetting. It can be exhausting to spend the day in a setting that is very loud, bright, and crowded. Standing in line, coping with gym class, and reacting to loud buzzers can be too much for some children. /r/n/r/n There are many different ways to accommodate autistic children, and autistic children are radically different from one another. That means that there is really only one way to find out if a child will do well in a public school, and that's to give it a try. /r/n/r/n The child might also thrive in a public setting for a period of time and then run into problems, or vice versa. These challenges can include bullying, or sensory challenges while navigating school. /r/n/r/n The key to success is to stay closely connected to the child's experience by communicating with their teachers, aides, therapists, and guidance counselors on a regular basis. /r/n/r/n rxcardclub.com. Get a free prescription drug card and save up to 80% on prescription drugs.